record. There we go. It's recording. I can see that it's recording. It has multiple spots on my monitor where it's telling me that it's recording. So let's see. Last week we left off. Let me replace the spotlight here. We kind of left off in this spot here. And I was going to say, where is that big shadow coming from? Well, it's coming from my own arm. And I thought what we could do is we could get these puddles kind of finalized, and then we could do the sky. Any final little tweaks we think we want to do. One thing I kind of noticed was that I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. One thing I kind of noticed was I thought that, and I think it was, I'll pull out the one that I did, the replacement one that I did, because this is the one we did in class, and then this is the one I did after. Now I didn't really start. I didn't pull off the tape that I have here, or anything like that, because I wanted to kind of get us to that point where we kind of stopped. But something I noticed, like here, I felt like I had some better texture, and even up in here than I do on this one. So I want to kind of revisit some of this texture, and that can happen kind of as kind of a final kind of walk around or whatever of the piece as we're kind of finishing up. Okay, so let's see. So I want to kind of make these puddles look like, instead of just big blobs of light area, I want them to kind of look like they're in the mud, and I want to, make it look like maybe there's higher little blobs of mud that, if when you drive through a puddle in a dirt road, you get this kind of mushed up. You kind of get this mushed up bit of mud that comes in there. So I want to add some of those kinds of things. So first thing I need to do is really wash out these brushes. I did not, on Thursday when I repainted this, which was the last time I got to paint, I didn't do a very good job of washing my brushes out. On a more positive note, I did find a tube of royal blue, so I was able to refill my royal blue well, which made me happy. I thought I had some and then couldn't find it, so I was thinking, well, that's the one I need to order, and I had ordered it. Okay, so enough jibber jabber. Let's see here. So I think what I want to do is kind of start off with some of these dark, this area where I have this nice rut. I think you guys can see that. Let me just pull this down. I have this nice little rut kind of coming through here. So I feel like there needs to be a little bit of mud coming up in there. I can even add some here where I pull some mud down through in here, something going on in here as well. So for that, and let me make sure that I don't tip anything over. For that, I have this, let's see if I can get this stuff. There we go. I have this kind of mix of earth tones right here on my palette. That You know, it's some of my quinacridone burnt orange, but it's also there's some burnt sienna in there, and then I think I also pulled in some quinacridone violet as well. But it's just kind of a dark reddish brown. If I wanted to, if I wanted, you know, like a little burnt umber, if I had something like that, I don't really use burnt umber. So a little, but that might be a nice color. And I can just get some of this here that I've got, and I'm just going to move some over here, and then I'm going to pull in some of this green mix, and that will give me almost a burnt umber kind of look. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but that's almost a burnt umber right there that I've mixed. So I want a little bit of that, and maybe some of the lighter stuff. And I'm just going to come in and kind of almost use I don't really want my brush super wet or a lot of paint in there. I wiped a little bit of it off on the palette. And I'm just going to come in and just kind of pull in some of this just like that. Just using the side and the tip of my brush. Just so if this is my paper, my brush is going down like that. And maybe as it gets a little closer to the edge, it's a little wider. Maybe there's a bit of a double track kind of thing going on there. And that will start to make it look like a little bit of mud is coming up through maybe there's a little bit on this side as well. So it kind of comes off and then goes into that area there. Let's do a little bit over here. I do want to, so this, I don't really care for the shape of this puddle. So I want to come in first. I'm going to use a little quinacridone violet. I'm not going to really worry too much about washing my brush out too much. I'm going to grab a little bit of that royal blue. Oops, that was too much because that's brand new paint. Let's see, I don't think you guys can see this, but so a little quinacridone violet right here. And I'm going to just kind of change the shape of this. So I want a little kind of, and maybe even this, you know, is kind of a broken up puddle here. So this one kind of comes in, just creating a little bit more of that shadow. And then let's come in with some of that brown mix again. And we'll just put a little bit right in there. So, whoa. So it starts to look like little areas where the you know, the softer earth has kind of pushed up. Does anybody have any questions about what I'm doing so far? I was getting some weird feedback, so I muted everybody, but feel free to unmute yourself if you have questions and stuff.
Can you get a close-up of that?
Oh, I sure can. Yeah. So you can kind of see. So this looks a little bit dark right now, but that's just because the paint's still really wet. I can pick up some of that water and then I may want to put a little bit of, let's see, I'm going to grab a little bit of this brown and put in just a bit of this dark purple that I have here. And I'm just going to put a little bit of stuff along these edges over here on each one of these puddles. It just kind of gives it a little, maybe there's a little bit of earth moved up on that, the side, each side of that puddle. Let's see. And then I really need to do something with this puddle here. So those, I'm not going to worry about too much detail in them because they're so far away. They kind of read a little bit like a puddle. And I can even come in like where the shadow kind of goes across them. I could come in with, let's see here. I'm gonna clean off some of this area right here. Actually, that's pretty. It's a little bit of a green. A little bit of peacock blue with some of this green kind of fused in it, and that's okay. I'm gonna grab a little bit of that. I just added a little more peacock blue to it, so it was a little more blue. And where these shadows are coming across, I can actually add, I can go in and add a little, you know, I want some of that, the white of the paper kind of shining through in some spots. But I want to add a little bit of that shadow back in. Even though we'll be getting mostly reflection from, you know, the sky, it would still be kind of in shadow. So I just want to add just a skosh of that back in. Oh, shoot. My sister just sent me a text. I wish the wrong Edwin Hurst a happy birthday.
No.
And well, the problem is Edwin Hurst. He's friends with he had his family and my family are really good friends. Have been since before I was born. And Ed Senior passed away several years ago. And it popped up that it was his birthday, but I thought it was his son Eddie's birthday. And my sister just texted me, and now I got distracted. Sorry about that. While I was holding my phone, zooming in on that. And I know Eddie is suffering. He's got COVID right now. He's had it twice. So I wished him a happy birthday and hope he was feeling better. It was on the memorial page of his dad, not his page. One of those weird social faux pas of social media that I don't even know how to fix that. Except for to message all the kids and say, hey, sorry, I got mixed up on whose birthday was whose. We've all been friends since I was, you know, a little tiny baby, so I'm sure they'll be fine, but still one of those things. Okay, so did that make sense to everybody? I know I got off on a tangent there, weird birthday things. What I may do is just see if I can't pick up just a skosh more of that. Right there. I think I let it get a little too dark, but I don't think it's too much of a problem. And there's enough light in there that still looks kind of like a puddle. So I want to do something similar right here with this puddle. So the first thing I'm going to do is set this down for a second here. I could never find what I'm looking for. Okay. So I want to do some of the similar things. Of course, this is a bigger puddle. I'm not sold on how this puddle is shaped. However, oops, just dropped the brush on it. I've got some good, you know, like I can come in maybe with a rut that kind of follows this and breaks this up into a couple of pieces. So I'm going to come over and grab my brown mix here, this kind of burnt umber mix that I made up. And I'm going to just kind of pull in. Let's see, that's too much water. I'm just going to kind of make a bit of a track here. Maybe there's some more right in here that comes up. Kind of make this kind of a little double track here. And I'm actually just going to make this kind of big coming off like that. Right now, it's still pretty much in the rough stage. I'm going to grab a little more of that and maybe actually take a little bit of my royal blue here that I have and just darken that just a skosh so I get a nice burnt umber looking color. And then bring that back over here. That way I just get that nice little bit of dark. There we go. There's a little bit of a double track kind of thing coming up there. And then I want to come in and sort of do that same little dark edge on the side of this thing. I don't want to completely outline this puddle, but I want to pick little spots where there's a little mud, you know, little glob of mud or dirt or whatever that's kind of sticking up and causing a bit of a darker area. Let's see. Let's come back over and lighten that up, get a little bit of the brown versus that darker dark. Kind of comes in like that, and then I can add just another little rut like so. Maybe this is broken up into something else. And this can just come on down to this kind of darker bit right here. Yeah, so I want to put a little more peacock blue, that kind of peacock blue green mix that I have, mostly peacock blue by now. I'm going to take a little bit of that and kind of put that down in some spots here. And really, I'm just kind of using the side of my brush to kind of put some of that back down. And then if I feel like it's a little too dark, like up here, I can come back in and lift that. Maybe I've got, need a little bit more. I think I kind of overdid it right there, so maybe I can come in and lift some of that back up. Yeah. And this is that dark again. I'm just going to kind of build up that little bit of a rut looking thing there. and then come back in and add a few little darker, little tick marks almost really is what they are. Just to help that rut look a little bit more like it's got some dimensions. But it's not, there's not a lot of detail in this. It doesn't have to, I don't have to sit there and really hem and haw about how that puddle looks. So I keep looking back at my laptop because it kind of lets me pull back without really pulling back. See if I would do anything different. And I like what's going on there. It's kind of an interesting little puddle shape. Before it was this weird kind of blob that I didn't really care for, but now it kind of is working for me. Any questions or anything on that?
No.
Any problems with your own or?
Other than my puddles, looks like the road. You can't really tell they're puddles.
Well, it takes a little bit of practice. I'll tell you, the first time I ever did something like this, mine didn't turn out quite the way I wanted it to either. So
good to know.
Yeah, it just takes a little practice.
We should all feel better.
Oh yeah. Don't feel bad if it doesn't look quite right. I'm going to come in, and that was fairly wet when I added some of those darks. I'm just going to grab a little bit more. All I'm doing is taking a little bit of that royal blue that I have right here and mixing it with this burnt sienna right over here to get kind of a slightly darker brown, that kind of burnt umber look. And now that it's dry just a skosh, and I just want to add a little bit more of that dark right in through. Yeah. Maybe just a couple little, but all those have now been broken up. They kind of look like puddles. They don't have to look exactly like puddles. People could read them as part of the road if they wanted, but it's all about the viewer anyway. But I think they look kind of like puddles. I'm fairly happy with them. I think I am just going to add a bit more of this blue, just a couple of spots. Just kind of. That is in back because that is still. I know I added some and now I'm picking it back up, and that may seem weird. Yeah. Not too bad. Okay. Well, I think, let's see. I want to add a little bit more texture. I don't really think that I need any over here because that's that's so far away. But I feel like I don't have quite as much texture in this portion, which is really closer to my area of interest anyway. I don't feel like there's enough going on in there to really define that area. So I just want to add just a little bit more. And I'm just going to grab my number 6 brush because I'm not going to do a lot. And I'm going to I'm just going to grab, let's see. I'm going to use a little bit of this permanent yellow orange, which you may have cadmium orange or something like that. And I'm just going to kind of come in and add a few little areas of color. Just little marks, kind of similar to what I did there, if you recall. And I may even come over here. I'll grab a little of that permanent green number 2 that I was using over here before. And I may add just a few more little darker darks into those little grassy tick marks. I might pull some of this green over into here as well. Just to give it a little more texture. All this is really just little, exactly what I'm calling them, little tick marks. A little purple. Yeah. Water, not enough paint. That's all right. And kind of soften some of those out. And all I'm doing here is adding. All I'm doing is adding a little bit more texture. So that's a little strong. I want to soften that kind of. Maybe come in with a little permanent red. So that's, grab a little of that permanent red there. Oops, my finger was kind of covering up what I was doing there. Just kind of putting in a little texture there. If I feel like maybe that's a little strong, I can come in and just kind of blot it just ever so slightly with my Kleenex. Yeah, I think that's enough. Maybe just a skosh right up in here. I got a pencil line up there that was bugging me. I can kind of cover it up with a little of that. Come back in. I put it down, and now I just cleaned out my brush, and I can come in and kind of soften that up. It was a little sharp for how far away it was. I don't want it quite that sharp. There we go. Yeah. You can see I've got a pencil line right here that kind of bugs me a little bit. It's okay that it's there. It's not really any big deal. As you can see, it's below yellow, so I can't really erase it. If that were like a light blue, I could totally erase that, but no such luck. So what I'm going to do is just come in maybe with a little more. I've got some of that yellow. This is that permanent yellow deep right in here, and this is permanent yellow orange. I'm going to use a little permanent yellow orange and just kind of do some more of those little tick mark textural things. Let me kind of come in pretty close so you can see what I'm talking about. Just a little of that, maybe a little red. This is kind of dry grass, I think, after all, so bring in a little red. And I'm just, making little tick marks, letting some of that flow together. That was maybe a little bit more than I wanted it to, but that's okay. We'll just kind of pick some of that back up. Use a little bit of just a clean, wet, sort of damp brush, not really wet, to kind of soften some of that. Let's come in with a little royal blue, just as we get over into here where it's a little more green. It looks like green now because I'm painting it on top of the yellow, but it really is royal blue that I added there. And maybe that's okay. Maybe come back in with a little of the red up in here. Define that top of this kind of hillside, you know, little rise right in here. And we'll just kind of make some more kind of grassy shapes there. I think that I like this shape. I ended up liking the shape on the bottom better than the shape on the top. So I'm just going to come back in with a wet, clean brush and soften that up so that the negative side of it, the part that looks like, well, the negative shape is this back here. And let's see, I don't double whatever those little things were, but and then I end up with kind of a cool lighter grass shape. And then what I can do is come in with just a skosh of that permanent yellow deep and down in here and make that look like it's part of that same little clump of grass. So just those few little ticks, you know, little blobs of color just added a bunch more texture to this. And if I ever think maybe I've done too much, which I'm kind of looking at thinking maybe I did, at least right in here, I can come back in, really soften this up, and maybe pick a little bit of that up with my Kleenex. Yeah, so I just softened it quite a bit. I can even soften it so much that, and all I'm using is water and a clean brush. I can just soften that back up, and now I think that looks all right. Okie dokie. So the sky. Now, this, you know, I like a pretty dramatic sky. However, let me set this up here for a second. In this case, I'm not sure that we need, you know, we don't necessarily need a really stormy sky or anything. I'm going to flip this around. Because it looks like it's a fairly sunny day, maybe late in the afternoon or earlier in the morning. But we'll kind of play with it and see where we go. Let me grab my, somebody still, oh, there it is. I think somebody swiped one of my, I had 2 rolls of toilet paper that I brought down here for this. I think somebody took one of them.
Oh my goodness. Maybe they needed it.
Yeah, they must have needed it. So let's see. Got this kind of taped far down on my boards, so I need to kind of move this. And so, like usual, like you know, kind of that sky demo that I did on the first day of class, I'm just going to paint water, just clean water, on my, in the area of the sky. I'm going to be fairly careful around the edges of things. So right in there, and then I can kind of come in and really.
What color of blue are you going to use?
I'm going to use peacock blue to start with. I like to use that in the sky, just as it's a nice sky blue. And I generally, even if I'm going to paint a stormy sky, I always like a little bit of blue sky kind of peeking through anyway. So I like to start with that peacock blue. But if you don't have peacock blue, like a nice cobalt blue or even an ultramarine, uh, something like that. Even even a darker color blue, as long as you kind of water it down, you know, like a darker shade, like a Prussian blue or something like that would work, or Antwerp blue. Just water it down quite a bit. Even royal blue would be all right, or even phthalo blue for that matter. You just got to really be careful with the phthalo blue because it stains, and it's in a little of it goes a long way. So be fairly careful with something like phthalo blue if you're using that. So that ought to be enough water on there. It's pretty wet. Let's see. I am going to clean my. I have a fairly dirty palette over here, so I'm going to kind of clean up some of this area right here. That's wet, and then pick it up with a towel.
The next 7 days, in fact, we're back in the 60s and 70s, late in the early part of next week.
Looking for the dirtiest one of these rags that I have.
Thursday, but for now, will be the rule. 47 there for Farmington. See that dip?
Pick that up so I have a fairly clean spot to start off with.
The first part. And after Thursday, that next feature, Taos at 50. That's too warm. We'll get you colder, but it'll be a.
Anybody? Nope. Okay. Okay. So little peacock blue, and I'll just let you see kind of. You know, it's not perfectly clean, but it's close enough. Oh, there was a fair amount of water in there. So that's a lot of peacock blue, but that's a lot of water as well. So I'm not overly worried about it. And let's see here.
Degrees cooler for you. Otherwise, Albuquerque in the metro here. 60-degree weather for Tuesday, Wednesday. Much cooler for Thursday with a slight chance of a shower, and then we'll begin that warming process all over again Friday.
Bring in kind of blues.
This renaming a service
this peacock blue.
Versus state. Nathan O'Neill for Thursday. They want worshipers to pray together in person. The state rules say there are limits. Does renaming a service a peaceful protest get around the law? Church versus state. Nathan O'Neill for
Michael, we're getting a lot of interference. Sounds like somebody's got their news on. It's kind of.
Yeah, if you. I'm going to mute everybody just to be on the safe side. And then if you need to ask a question, feel free to unmute yourself. But if you got something going in the background, just make sure that you either turn it down or mute yourself afterwards. Okay, so we've got, I've got this kind of loose sky painted in here. Let me set this up here because I kind of need both my hands for a minute. And I want to, I do want some clouds in here. I could even just come in and add, I've done this in the past where I've just added water and let it kind of do its own thing to begin with. Just sop up some of that excess. So I'll just kind of let it flow because it's fairly wet. So I was just kind of holding it at an angle. And now that, you know, that's not too bad looking. I can grab kind of a, you know, I've got a wad of toilet paper here. Let's see here. I'm just gonna, there's a couple little spots that I don't want to be white. So I'm just gonna make sure that I have those covered. They were looking a little weird, so just soften that up a bit. And I'm just gonna make a cloud shape with this Kleenex. So again, when you're doing something like this, don't wad it up like this and just do a bunch of little dots. Make it, you know, kind of wide and long and cloud shape. There's very few times as a cloud just a little round dot. So let's see, I'm just going to come in and plop that down right there. Pick some of that up. I don't know if I like that shape yet, so I'm just going to kind of roll it so I'm not using the side that has paint on it. That's a little bit better. Maybe this one comes down like so. And the cool thing about this is I can always put more paint down. There we go. That's kind of an interesting shape. It's a little hard to tell on screen, but if I zoom in on it, you can kind of see some of the patterns that the Kleenex had. It's kind of funny. But don't let those scare you or anything like that. So I kind of like these shapes that I've made go across there. So I'm going to come back in now with a round brush. I'm going to use my number 8. I'm still working with Peacock Blue. I'm going to come in and start adding some blue back in and sort of accentuating some of this shape. I don't really care for this sharp edge that I've got going on here, so I'm just going to soften that a little bit. Just by picking up a little bit more of it. I had that real sharp angle going across there. I wasn't real crazy about it. Okay, so I think I want a little more dark, you know, the peacock blue kind of coming in here just to accentuate that shape. I can kind of pull it off with the side of my brush. Maybe even over in here. A little bit of that as well. And again, I'm just using peacock blue right now. Not that you know, if you don't have peacock blue, again, that's okay. You can use a different blue. Just make sure if it's something like phthalo blue that you're using it sparingly. All right, so just come in maybe with a little bit right here. I'll bring in that. Soften this up a little bit with water. And then as much, I did like that shape that was there that I had going on, but I don't want that interesting of a shape next to the edge of my paper. So I'm just going to soften that whole bit right there. Maybe I want a little more of this blue over here. We'll just pull that off into the rest of the sky over here. And then just soften it. I keep sticking my brushes in my mouth and the paint's chipping off, and now I've got paint in my mouth. Don't do that if I have this bad habit of sticking them, you know, holding them with my teeth. And you can see where the paint's chipping off of them. And little paint chips end up in my mouth, which is not fun. Let's see, I'm gonna bring that down. Kind of like that. I think I'm gonna flip this back around now. See what it looks like right side up. Sometimes looking at it upside down is good. Sometimes you need to, just because you've been looking at it right side up the whole time. Let's see, I'm gonna bring a little darker bit right in there. Maybe kind of come up with some, I'm just kind of making a side. Again, if the side of my finger is the paper, this is how the brush is touching the paper. It's kind of the side of the brush. I can completely clean it out. And now just use that kind of like if you're shading with a pencil. You can do the same thing with your brush, just using the side of your brush to make marks that look somewhat cloud shaped. It's kind of an interesting shape. Let's see, come in. I got a little bit of paint into my brush, and I'm gonna do this kind of a similar kind of swoopy, you know, flat, kind of the bottom of the cloud looking thing, shape down here. And again, just using the side of my brush, just pick up a little bit of paint, not a lot, mostly, I just barely stuck it in the puddle. I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about. I have this big puddle over here, but I just kind of did that, just barely touched it. To get some paint into the brush. Got a little of that. Maybe we come down here with a little dark. Maybe we want this to be just a little more blue down in here. Be a little careful around the mountains. I don't want it too dark, so I'm going to pick some of that back up. All I did there was sort of blot my brush on a towel, and then that made it somewhat thirsty, and I was able to pick some of that up. And now I can, I'm kind of just dry brushing. With the paint that I picked up from my brush, or from here, I can just kind of dry brush and move it around. So I'm just kind of making interesting cloud shapes with the side of my brush. This is coming in a little, hey guys, this is coming in a little strange right here. So I want to pick some of that up. And in that case, you notice that I did make it kind of a little round blob. That's just because I was just picking up this little area here, and I didn't want to accidentally pick something else up. But I was getting a weird little thing going on there that I didn't really care for. Maybe over here is a little strange too. I want to just lighten that. That was a little dark. I don't mind that it's there. It was too dark, so I picked that back up. And then, let's see. I feel like maybe, let me just pick some of that up. And really what I can do is just get my brush wet. So that was just clean water that I then picked up some of this with, and I want to just come in like this. That shape was bugging me, so I just want to change that shape up a little bit. Let me just pick some of that back up. I blotted my brush off, or you could squeeze it in, you know, your Kleenex or toilet paper, whatever you're using. So it's thirsty, and I can soften that back up. What do I feel like? This is bugging me. I have this 1, 2, 3 kind of hump thing going on there. So I think this one in the middle is the one that's bugging me. So I think what I'm going to do, and that is because I was getting that weird shape, but now I want to control the shape. So I'm going to bring in a little bit more paint here and just change that shape entirely. So like so, and then I can use a little bit of this, just kind of to soften those edges. And that makes a far more interesting, less uniform looking cloud group there. Let me just pick some of that back up. Maybe change this shape quite a bit. Just bring in a little bit of this light. All this is just a clean brush that had some a little bit of water in it that I can just move around the existing paint that's on there with. So I can even roll my brush to kind of pick some of that up, sort of lean back and look at it, see what I think. I don't want a lot of dark in here, but I think I'm going to get a little bit of royal blue. And I have that little touch of it right here on my palette where I had gotten too much. So I'm just going to grab a tiny little bit of that, mostly water, and add just a few little shadows underneath. And if they come out too dark, I can lighten them. But I just want to add a few more little shadows underneath some of these where I've added some. I just want to accentuate some of those shadows. Maybe that's a little too dark, but not terrible. So I'll just clean my brush out and use just a damp brush to kind of pick some of that back up. But you can see it just added a bit of a shadow there. Not necessarily stormy looking, just the underside shadow of a cloud. Maybe there's a little bit more right here. And again, all I'm doing is kind of painting with the side of my brush. Getting a little uncomfortable holding it like that. So if you hold it like this, kind of like when you're using the side of a pencil, you can, excuse me, you can make some pretty interesting marks. There we go. A little bit of a bottom of the cloud, maybe a little bit more over here. Just pick up a little bit more of that royal blue. And come over here. That's still a little wet, but that's okay. It bleeds into that, softens it. A little bit of a that's not too bad. And again, this is just a little bit of a shadow on the bottom of these clouds. Take a little bit more of that royal blue up. Just grab a little bit, pull it on over into here. There's a little bit of a shadow down in here. A little bit of this cloud is further away, so it's just back in there a little bit further. Yeah. So you can just kind of fiddle around with it and say, okay, well, I like that. I don't like this. This shape is weird, so I want to kind of come in and soften that. I don't necessarily even need to do much, just kind of soften it and then pick that back up. Yeah. I do feel like I've got this blob of blue and blob of dark, peacock blue. Feels like it needs to be a little bit more coming across. There. And right there. And all this is just pure peacock blue that I've got picked up. I just had these two little blobs there that I didn't care for. I didn't want a particularly sharp line right here. So because this is still just slightly damp, all I did was kind of put it in here, and then it's going to kind of run back down into that area softly. Add a little bit more water. It might make some blossoms, but that's okay. They'll just look like other clouds down in there. I'm just gonna step back for a second, kind of look at this, see what I think. It's not looking too terrible. Yeah. I do feel like my little puddle down here needs just a bit more of a kind of a dark peacock little blob, you know, a couple little tick marks of just pure peacock blue. So I'm going to grab some of that and just pull those down into here like that. You can't even see that. There we go. We'll just zoom in on that. All I'm doing is just adding a little bit of peacock blue just back into there. Yeah. I'm pretty happy with this so far. I wonder if that needs to be just a little bit more contrast right in there. That's a fairly light tree. And because this is kind of our area of interest, we may want this to be a little darker. So that's just peacock blue. It was on my brush from doing this down in here. And now I'm going to soften it as we kind of come over here. I want a little more down in here as well. Kind of bring that up into the clouds. And let's see, that's a weird shape that I don't want, so it's gonna kind of bring this back over in there, and back up in there, and then soften it as I get up here. And that's, I just cleaned my brush out again, and now I'm just kind of picking up. It's a damp brush, but it's not really wet. And that just helps that tree pop a little bit more. Yeah. I feel like I need a little window or something in the side of this house. So I'm just going to grab a little of that quinacridone violet royal blue mix that's right here and come over here and mix it with a little of that royal blue Hooker's green mix. So I get a fairly dark, kind of almost black. And I'm just going to kind of come in. I don't even have to be real exact about it. There's a window in there. Yeah. That side looks square. And maybe there's another window kind of in there. Yeah. Darken these little guys up just a skosh. Just a couple little windows right in there. I could even put like a little stall door window in the barn over here. Yeah, I think that helps a little bit. That fairly dark green, I want to kind of add a little bit. It looks black, but it's really just dark green. And the reason it looks a little black is because it's got that quinacridone violet royal blue mix in it. And I'm just going to darken some of this these little, whoa, these little areas up. Just add a little bit more, or a little bit more pop into a few of these spots. Don't want to overdo it. Just adding just a hint of a little bit of dark color down in there. Just to kind of help. Yeah. Just to give this a little bit more volume, a little more depth to these darks in this area where it's my area of interest. I'm not going to worry about those trees over there. They're fine the way they are. Just wanted to add just another little bit of dark right in there. I think I could come in here with a little of this dark and just give myself a little bit of, that pushed up mud thing. Just dried a little lighter than I thought it would. So just put another little bit of shadow in there, maybe a little bit in here too. That's lightened up considerably. Yeah, pretty happy with that. Maybe just a couple on this little bit there. Not too bad. So I want the sky to look like, stuff lives here. So I think I'm going to grab a little bit of royal blue. That was a little too much. So I've got to, because I refilled that well, and it's really soft. So I have to be careful. I'm going to grab a little of that, pull in a little of this dark green. We're into there, so it's kind of a dark aqua color. And then I'm gonna roll my brush so I have a fine point. I'm gonna add a few little flying birds in here. So I think I kind of want one down here to really help push this mountain back. So I'm gonna put one flying right in here. There's a little bird. Flying over that valley. There's another one up in this neck of the woods. And let's do a third one. It's still a little wet right there, so I don't want to touch that. Maybe maybe right here. Yeah. So I got an odd number of birds there, 3. That's a good number. And I think we're mostly done with this. Any questions or thoughts on it? Don't forget y'all are on mute, so you can unmute yourselves. Now I'm going to, one of the things I'm going to do, and I don't think I've done that in this particular class yet, is I want to get this dry. So I'm going to dry it really quickly. Excuse me. Kind of a weird, weird little blob that's going on over here. I'm just going to kind of lift that. There's a fair amount of water under the tape right there. I'm just going to kind of lift that up. It's okay because it's, you know, it's close to the edge. You'll probably get it covered over by a mat or something. I had a lot of water in that paper. If I feel like this is a little sharp right here, I can come in with a brush and kind of soften this. Maybe even pull a little bit of glue over in here just so that line doesn't lead you. Same with over here. That line doesn't lead you out of the painting. So I'm just going to soften the top of these clouds right here. Just ever so slightly. And if I particularly do this if I wasn't about to do this, the next step that I'm going to do, the sort of final step, just because while I want that cloud to appear to kind of go off the paper, I don't want it quite as sharp a line going off the paper. Let me, not super crazy about this kind of thick line that was there, so I'm going to add just a bit more blue. I'll come in like so, maybe soften this just ever so slightly more. Just do that. And then let's try drying this again real quick. All right, that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. And so then I'm going to take, I have this fine mist bottle, which is just a normal bottle you can buy at Hobby Lobby or someplace like that. And it's got cobalt blue in it. And all this is just, you know, I squeezed out a snake about that long of paint, put it in there, and then I filled the bottle up about 2/3. This just happens to be what's left. And of water, anyway, I filled it up with about 2/3 with water, and then I can shake it up. And I'm shaking it up because it tends to spatter. This particular bottle tends to spatter a little bit, so I'm shaking it way down by the floor. I keep spattering my leg with paint, but I don't want to get paint on my painting yet. And I just want to make sure that you can kind of see the bottom of there's some paint globbed up down in there. That'll clog the nozzle. So I want to make sure that I get all of that shaken, kind of mixed in with the water really good till there's no more of that. And, you know, if you've taken my class before, you've seen me do this. This is just a nice accent to really help focus, drive home that focus of this being the area of interest. It allows me to kind of set up a bit of a vignette. And what I'm going to do, that looks pretty good, is kind of cover up my paints and my palettes over here so I don't get any overspray on them. If you look at I'll show you really quickly. If you look at the bottom of my little hot light there, you can see lots of blue overspray on it from this very technique. And all I'm going to do is kind of spray a light vignette around the edge. And I'm going to hold the bottle over the center and spray out. And I'm going to aim for this edge of the paper. So I'm going to do a couple practice squirts into my water. And you can see it's just ever so slightly. And this actually may be royal blue now. I think I was out of cobalt. Or maybe it's cobalt blue hue. It's gonna. And that helps kind of really, you can see it's starting to really make this area pop. Let's see, there we go. I don't need a huge amount to do this. That's probably all I need. I can clean this, and this is how my drawing board has turned from white to blue. Same reason. All of this overspray. There we go. But now that really helps focus you in on, let's see, I got a couple little blobs here I want to get. That really helps you focus in on this area. You'll notice I brought in that blue kind of vignette is a little bit wider on this side than it is on this side. Let me just dry this real quick. Anywhere I have little blobs, I can pick them up if they haven't dried already. But you can see that kind of solved my problem up there. I probably didn't need to spend too much time on that. Yeah. You know, if I felt like this was a little dark, I could go back in and lift out some more ruts if I felt like it, but I'm pretty happy with that. Any questions? Concerns? What's that?
I said, mine doesn't really look like yours. I mean, it looks similar, but not, yeah.
Well, that's okay. That's okay.
Better than the last.
That's the great thing about watercolors is even the one that I painted the other day, that's the same exact composition. It's similar, but it's certainly not the same. I mean, all sorts of stuff are different. So yeah. Yeah.
Mike, how dark do you get your paint on this spray bottle?
Well, it looks really dark, but it's mostly water. So when I take the tube, I had one laying around here. We'll just use this tube, which is quinacridone violet. But what I do is I take the top off and I squeeze in, you know how it comes out in kind of a snake long tube shape? I squeeze out about an inch and a half of paint. I don't fill up the bottom with an inch or an inch and a half of paint. It's just an inch and a half long.
I see.
You know, it's just, I just take it and I squeeze out that long a snake or tube of, you know, that little kind of cylinder of paint that comes out. And with these 15 milliliters, it's about an inch and a half. If I was using one of these bigger guys, you know, they have a much bigger opening. It may only be about a half inch because the, you know, the opening is much bigger than.
Right.
So I just kind of judge based on that, but and then I fill the bottle up. So I squeezed into that, and it's just, it ends up like a little blob in the bottom. I fill up the bottle about that much with water. So it looks like it's really dark, but it's not really, because it's mostly water.
Okay.
I mean, as you can see as it dries here, I'll spotlight back the. There we go. You can see it's fairly light.
Yes.
It's just a fine mist of that color, just enough to kind of push that area back and help this area pop.
Okay.
And this isn't a fancy watercolor spray bottle, you know, it's just any old, this one's I think made by a company called Up and Up. I don't know. I think my mom got this at Hobby Lobby, or I did. You could even use, you know, if you have bigger bottles, like I have some of these 4 ounce, I think 4 ounce bottles. You could still do the same thing. Just look at it like, okay, well, this is 2. You know, I'll just sort of divide it in half. I'll put in the same amount of paint and then only fill it up to about there.
Oh, yes.
Or maybe put in, 2.5 inches of paint and fill it up to there. And this, again, you can get this. I think we found these on Amazon or something back when we bought them. But this is a fine mist sprayer. It's not fancy or anything. It's just, that's all it is. And this would work too.
Okay.
So you can find them at Hobby Lobby. I'm pretty sure that's where my mom bought this one. And the reason I'm using this instead of one of my, normally I have a fine mist sprayer top on one of these guys. But the fine mist sprayer that I had got clogged up. I have 2 of them. They're both clogged up. And I need to soak them in vinegar or something to clean them out. So I just switched over to using one of these. The trick is, so now that I've used it, I need to take the top off and run clean water through it. So I'll submerge it down in my water bucket. Here, I'll show you. Well, if I can get the phone back out. I'll submerge it down in my water bucket like this and just spray.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just clean water through it.
What cleans out, yes.
And you can see now it's fairly clean. I mean, it's gonna be stained a little bit, but it's fairly clean now, and it won't get clogged up.
Yeah. Okay, I just did it. I just cleaned mine out.
Cool. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's all. That's all it is. Is just a snake of about an inch and a half, something like that. Just whatever feels right. You know, the more paint you add, the darker it is. But you can always, if it turns out a little too dark, you know, you're spraying it, you're like, maybe that's a little too dark. It's fine for this painting, but you can always add just a little bit more water.
Right.
You just need enough space in your bottle so that it has room for it to move around when you shake it.
This one works pretty good. It's just a hole for Bree's bottle.
Oh yeah. Let me. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's a perfect kind of bottle. Didn't even have to pay for that one, right? It was just trash.
That's right.
Once it was done. Yeah. So do we want to, do you guys want me to look at your paintings at this point, or do we want to start that other one that I emailed out and then maybe have me look at them at the end of the class? What do you guys want to do?
Let's start on the other one.
Does everybody agree with that?
That sounds good to me.
Okay. Well, that's what we'll do. So I'll put up.
I vote yes too.
You, what's that?
I vote yes too.
Oh, okay. So let me share my screen really quick. And I had this one out just because I was looking at those puddles. So here is, so this is, I took this photo, but I don't know that I did a very good job. Well, it was with a really old cell phone when they first started having cameras on them. I was in Santa Fe. This is the art museum, the New Mexico Art Museum in Santa Fe. And I just liked this shape. It was just kind of cool. I liked the shadows on the I like these shadows coming down. I thought those were kind of interesting. And I like these kind of cool Adobe buildings. And I think this one's actually not the one. It is, but it isn't. Let me find. So I did. Where did I put that? There we go. I think this one was one I cropped for. I was doing that painting a day thing, and I cropped this really small so I could. Yeah, it's more like this. Here we go. This is really the one. So I just liked this. This is the one I used. So sorry, I think I sent you guys the wrong one. But it's close enough. But so when I did this sketch, and then I was like, that kind of looks like a ghost going, ah. But I like these shadows that were coming down in this little faux bell tower looking thing. And even in this kind of window here. I just like the shapes, kind of the organic shape of the building, and then these, why did the word just went right out of my head. The vigas that are sticking out. I think I drew it in my sketch, but I'm not going to, I think I'm going to get rid of whatever the heck this thing is. I don't even know what that is. I can't tell. I think it's a piece of wood or something. I'm just not sure.
What are you talking about?
This right up in here. Can you see that where the arrow is?
I think a beam.
Yeah, it probably is a beam, but I drew it in there, sort of, but I'm just gonna actually get rid of it. I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'm just gonna kind of do that kind of a shape. I drew it in there, but I don't really care for that. I feel like it's not necessary. So I would encourage you guys to ignore that as well. And then I had, I simplified these. So there's three of them down here and three of them up here. In the photo, there's like, there's three of them, but then there's this drain spout, this roof drain spout. That doesn't really lend anything to the composition. So I took these three, or maybe these two that are really visible. I kind of moved them up and made this guy one of those. Like if it had been me, I would have hidden this within so it looked like, you know, one of these guys, I guess. I'm not sure why they didn't do that. So I just have these three in here. I don't know that I like the fact that this one's coming from off the page, the way I drew that. So I may move that in more. What am I looking for? I may move it, you know, in that way more. So it's more, you know, like the base of it's more here. Maybe I take all of these and I move them over just a bit into, you know, this that way and sort of redistribute them a little bit better. That's, you know, just how I ended up drawing it, and I'm not super crazy about this part of the composition is what I'm trying to say. So that's why it's really great. Whoa. That's why it's really great to, just a second here. You guys still there? I was having some issues with the, it kicked me off the private artifacts Wi-Fi and had me back on the guest Wi-Fi, and it was doing weird things. What am I trying to say? So this is why it's great to do a sketch beforehand, because you can kind of work out these issues. Like I thought I had this well thought out, but I don't think that it really is that well thought out. I think they need to move in away from this edge a little further. And maybe they need to move up. You know, maybe this whole bit needs to kind of, everything needs to move up this way so that the top of the building's a little higher so that these don't lead your eye off the page as well. Does that make sense to everybody? So that's what I'm going to work on. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and take this one off. I'm going to leave, let's see, actually. Nope.
Michael, I have a question.
Yeah.
So your pencil sketch is it's hard shaded where the light isn't hitting the building. Won't it be hard to paint over all that pencil?
Right. Well, so this is, let me go back to this. I'll show both the same. So this is my pencil drawing in my sketchbook. But when I draw it on my, that's a very good question. When I draw it on my piece of watercolor paper, I won't shade in all this stuff. I'm just going to do a light line drawing. Okay. So this is all stuff I was planning out. I was planning out where I wanted my darks and my lights and my medium tones. I was planning out the composition. So yeah, you are correct. It would be very hard to paint over. You know, if we were painting with acrylics or oils or something, that would be one thing. But so yeah, when I draw this on my watercolor paper, I am not going to. I'm not going to shade everything in. And I would encourage you guys not to shade. So every now and then I might make a little light cross hatching if I need to remind myself that there's a shadow there or something that I've drawn is supposed to be a shadow, but it's really, really light so that once it's covered up by the darker shadow, I won't, you know, you won't see it. So let me get a new fresh piece of paper. Which way did here we go. And so, yeah, you can see, let me, real quickly, I'll stop this share. And so this is the sketch that I pulled into. I just took a photo of it with my phone, and that's what I sent you guys. But this is the actual sketch from my sketchbook that I sent you guys. So let me go back to screen share. Okay. Oh, piece of paper. So we'll do that real quick, and then yeah. And don't feel overly intimidated by stuff like my mom used to get freaked out by architectural paintings, architectural landscape kind of things. Just pick out shapes. So there's this kind of shape here, this kind of rounded shape. Then there's this little bitty, just look at just a little bit of it at a time. Don't let it intimidate you, because it's really just small shapes. Which is why I like to do these drawings for you guys. Like this, I made it a pretty sharp line, but over here it's kind of soft. This was just so I knew that I wanted this to be pretty light and this to be kind of dark, but we'll paint that so it looks a little softer. But that way you know that there is a line. You can see that I've really simplified this down to let me there we go. That way you can see everything. I also, if you'll notice, it's kind of funny. This may be one I cropped weird too. There may be more sky. You can see that I've kind of stretched this. This is a little more squat looking. I've made it look a little more vertical and thinner. So in my mind, it being a little more vertical makes it slightly more elegant. Okay, so I need a pencil, water. Where did my lid go? Okay. And so yeah, so I think I am going to move that whole building up and kind of stretch this down just a little bit more. So essentially, this, well, if I could get it, there we go. Essentially, this will be the top of the paper there, and then more paper will come. Let's see here. there'll be more paper down here. And then I can draw this line down, and then, you know, this will kind of finish off. That kind of, that way I just have a little bit more. I think that would be a better composition. You know, this whole area here will be very similar to this, but that way it's just a little bit longer at the bottom part and not.
Michael?
Yeah.
As you're sketching, can you tell us what colors we'll be using?
We're going to be using a lot of kind of oranges and yellows. I don't like to, you know, I don't like stucco to be brown when I paint it. I like to, you know, I can see little bits of red and yellow in here. And I think it'll be more interesting. So we'll be using kind of the oranges, kind of that warm spectrum of oranges, yellows through reds. And then over here, we'll be using some cooler colors like, you know, Hooker's green, royal blue, quinacridone violet, that kind of, those kinds of, so violet, you know, blues and just the cooler colors. That kind of, you know, we'll have those kind of two kind of
or donate at mercyships.org.
Gonna come on down like so.
I wouldn't recommend. Anyone can do it in less than 30 minutes.
Welcome to Simplicity.
No tools or wiring needed. And what?
Motion sensor detected.
Well, that was easy. You see here? There's a photo of you, mommy, and then there's a picture of before our story. It goes way, way, way back with our great, great, great grandparents. See this handsome man?
Yeah, look at things like the fact that, you know, these all kind of line up. So you can see that there's a, you know, there's kind of a line that connects all the bottoms of, you know, this one's a little off, but that's okay. They all kind of connect. they're on the same horizontal plane. The bottom of this little dip where it rises back up for this. Same with here, it comes down in that same area, this window. These all line up. So those are the kinds of clues that you can use to kind of help yourself draw something a little more accurately. Just look at those little cues where things either line up with each other or seem to. I still think that's the wrong. There we go. That's the right one we want. This is the right. Now you can see, yeah, there were a whole bunch, and I kind of simplified it from all these to 3 of them, and I got rid of that thing. Because again, if I were doing this building, I would have hidden that within one of these, because that just is distracting. So real quickly, I'm just going to show you how simple my sketch is. Oops. So you can see there's not a lot to it. These are a little dark, so I can just roll my eraser over them and lighten those up just a bit. But that's how. Does let me go back to the share screen. I just wanted to. What am I on? This one. Just wanted to kind of show you where I was at. How simplistic the drawing was. It wasn't overly complicated. Not a whole lot of detail. Excuse me. It's hot. I'm gonna go turn the heat down real quick while everybody's catching up. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good.
Are we about ready to
Good.
start on this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
And to find out what additional resources we need. But then the focus on
All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and stop the share on this and go back to. There we go. There we go. That's better. Yeah. So if we look at the sketch, we can tell, I mean, really this, you know, I took this photo probably sometime at midday. And you can tell because, you know, these shadows are kind of coming straight down. I kind of exaggerated the angle of these. They're not quite at that angle, but you can see that a lot of the you know, the sun is coming straight from the top here. So what I want to do is, let's see, this is a bit dark. I'm just gonna kind of lighten that up just by rolling my kneaded eraser over it and picking up some of that extra dark pencil. And what I'm going to do is essentially kind of start with the lighter areas. And then I'll work on, you know, some of these darker ones. I think because I don't have a lot of space, I'm going to forego using my flat brush. And I'm just going to, you know what? Because I'm using, let me get a little bit of, let me get a little bit of clean water as well. I'm going to be using yellows and oranges and stuff, and I want to add some pretty dark blue paint or water. Quickly add just a bit more clean water there. And so I think what I'm going to do is just use my number 10 round brush for this for now. If I want to paint larger, you know, washes, I can use the brush on the side. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to start off over here with a little permanent yellow deep. This stuff right over here, I'm just going to make a nice little wash here. I have some permanent yellow lemon in there too, but kind of go this. And then I know that I'm going to be using, let me just kind of clean up this area here. I know that I'm going to be using some permanent yellow orange. Let's start with those. Permanent red. So I'm going to start with those three, and we'll go from here. I'm gonna grab a little of this permanent yellow deep, and in this area, and I have a pretty wet wash with it. Starting there, permanent yellow. Let's see. More cross in there.
His authenticity.
And then I'm going to switch over to this permanent yellow orange here. And I want to just pull that up into my permanent yellow deep. So I get this kind of nice little kind of gradient right in there. Pull into that, further into that. I might even grab a little of my permanent red and just drop it right in there. So then I'll come back to my permanent yellow orange. And I'm just going to turn around those guys. I don't really have to because they'll be, you know, kind of earth tone and whatnot, but I'm just going to kind of around those vigas sticking out there.
Was nominated by President Obama for the Supreme Court and never even allowed to enter that. First of all, as I said to him,
don't forget, if you're watching the news or something while you're doing this, mute yourself or turn your news down. Let's see. You guys trying to multitask. So this is just that permanent yellow orange. It's a pretty light wash of it. I can come back in and add a little bit more if I want it to be a little more vibrant. I could come in and probably will. Let me just kind of clean up a spot here. Peacock blue kind of went all over the place. And I think I'm going to add a little opera to this. So that's this nice pink. If you don't have it, it's okay. You don't have to. But I'm just gonna drop a little of that in some spots. It just adds a little more color variation and allows for some textural stuff to start happening. And the cool thing is, it's really the same value as the paper. It looks, you know, there's color, but if I were to look through a ruby beholder, it would look white, just like paper. So I'm just going to pull in a little of that down in there. Maybe some of this red there. Not a lot of it, though. In fact, I may switch from that red to like alizarin crimson, maybe. Yeah. Grab a little alizarin. Alizarin crimson has a little bit more kind of violet almost in it. So we'll just pull a little of that in there. Getting weird shadows from lights. There we go. And I'm not too worried if I accidentally paint over that little window there. It's not that important. Let's see, that I want fairly light. So I'm gonna lift that back out. Pull this back down in here. Soften that up. Let's come back in with a little more of that permanent yellow deep right in here. Which I know that looks like a lot, but it's not really. And it's okay if that red starts bleeding into it. We're gonna deal with that later. But I did kind of come back in with a thirsty brush after I painted some of that down, and I lifted some of that back out just to sort of accentuate this part. This little bit right here is at a different plane than that little bit. It gets a little confusing. Let's see, this comes on over here. I didn't quite get it all. It's it.
No thirsty brush.
So, not too bad. It doesn't look like much of anything right now, but hey, this is just our first wash that we're putting down. I could even, if I wanted to, just to have a little bit of variation, I may come in with a little bit of my permanent green #1, this real light green, just a tiny, tiny bit of it, mostly water. I can even drop a little bit of that in here just to give it a little change in color and value. It adds a little texture. You'd think that that'd be weird, but it actually works really well. And it gives it that kind of organic Adobe stucco kind of feel that this, you know, this building styled after after a mission church. So, you know, this is supposed to look like a bell tower. This building is actually, I think, steel and concrete construction. It's not real Adobe, but I think it was built, I want to say it was 30s, but I can't remember. Yeah. So I'm pretty happy with that first wash. You can see we have a fair amount of color variation. You know, we've got the nice kind of yellows. We have a hint of green that's actually starting to look a little bit like turquoise, which is kind of interesting to me. We've got some interesting texture happening. I don't know that you know, I think this texture that's sort of happening here is going to get covered up by part of that shadow, but that's okay. This is kind of
Where's the brush? You gotta help me out here.
Not a bad looking. I'll bring in a little more opera up in this corner here. Finish that out. It's a little hard to see. There's a glare. Let's see. There we go. Turn that light. You can kind of see that I added a little bit of color up in there. I'm not overly concerned with, you know, these looking fairly sloppy. Those will all get kind of fixed. Same with let's go ahead. Get my hair dryer. A little bit. Pick up a little bit of this extra water. Brush. That'll be all right. So the next thing we're going to do is this is kind of a large. I'm getting a little. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we have this fairly large side of the building here. And if we return to the sketch, it's not actually the darkest part of the painting. The darkest part of the painting are actually going to be these little bits inside and these cast shadows. So all of these cast shadows. In fact, actually, before we do that, we also need to come in here and paint. I'm just going to paint this whole thing because a lot of this is going to be cast. And I want that to read like that. So I'm going to come back in here and actually paint these windows to look light because, you know, these little bits are going to start out light. So I'm going to use a little quinacridone, or I mean, permanent yellow deep. I'm going to start with that. And it's okay that this whole thing is light. I'm not going to waste a lot of time with that section, but I do want a little bit of this light color behind there to show through the shadow that we're going to paint later. So we've got a little bit of this permanent yellow orange. Again, if you have quinacridone orange, not quinacridone, cadmium orange, that's a great orange. It's very similar to this. In fact, it's a little more vibrant than this permanent yellow orange. It's a little orangier orange. So we've got a little of that. I'm not too overly concerned with, you know, I got a little bit of paint over on the side there. That's okay. It's not going to hurt anything. So that. Some of this kind of coming in. And again, this is just that quinacridone, or I mean, God, I'm going to get it right here in a second. Permanent yellow orange and then the permanent yellow deep, which is the lighter of the two. Maybe I'll put a little, just to continue that trend, I'll put a little opera in there. But then hit it, you know, it's kind of looking like a splotch, so I want to hit it with a lot of water so it runs. And there we go. So that's my first little you know, and really, again, that's just so we have these little areas of light. There's also, if I would continue to check back with my sketch here, there's a little bit of light here as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that in. I'm not going to worry too much about what it is. I'm just going to put a little bit of the permanent yellow light right there, maybe just permanent yellow deep, and maybe a little permanent yellow orange as well. Just a hint of that here in a little bit, and then I'll just kind of pull that over into there. And let me get this dry real quick too. The biggest thing I hear people complain about when they're trying, you know, watercolors for the first time is that they make mud and they can't seem to keep the colors kind of separated, and that's because they don't fully dry, you know, let one wash dry before they apply another one. Particularly next to each other. If you want to, you know, kind of to show a change in plane, you need to make sure that this initial wash here is dry before starting this darker wash here. And for this, let's see, I'm going to clean part of my palette off again because I've just got a big old mess here. Let's clean some of that up. I mean, it's not too bad, but okay. So I'm going to, for this, I'm going to start off with a little quinacridone violet. So I want a little bit of that over here. Oops, you can't see what I'm doing. There we go. A little bit of that. That's this guy. You could start off with a alizarin crimson. That would be a good one. I am going to use a little opera, so I'm going to just keep that puddle right there. I know I'm going to use a little quinacridone violet. That's this kind of darker violet here. I know I'm going to use a little royal blue. That's that guy there. Probably a little Hooker's green, which is really what this is here. Kind of bleeding in, my blue bleeding into it, but that's okay. There we go. Oh, it's hard for you guys to not paying attention to what I'm filming. So I got a little Hooker's green. I got a little royal blue. A little more of that there. And I could use this flat brush, but I think just I think I'm just going to stick with my number 10 round. And I'm going to start, like I said, with this quinacridone violet. Alizarin crimson would be just as good. I know these two look very similar. They're not really, but I mean, one's lighter than the other. But I'm going to start with that. And so I'm just going to start up here. And I can even, I'm not going to go very dark right away. I'm going to add a little opera in there as well, just to kind of break that single violet up, or magenta, I should say, quinacridone magenta, or permanent magenta, I'm sorry. I'm going to break that up a little, bring this in here. Let's see. And right now that's going to look like a sharp edge, but we'll come back in and soften that. I'm going to now switch over to a little of this slightly darker permanent, quinacridone violet. Pull that down in there. Maybe I want to switch over to a little royal blue while we're at it. Now that looks super dark, but there's a lot of water in it, and I'm going to completely clean my brush out and then start moving that around. So we'll just bring that down into there. You can see there's, I have a fair amount of water in that wash. I really want those two to run together, so I just add a little more water right in here so I can get that to blend a little bit better. Same with right here. I think I was talking a little too much and didn't, let's move back into this quinacridone, permanent magenta right in there. And I'm just going to pull that up into there, just like that. We'll come back up in here with some of that as well. So this is still that quinacridone, permanent magenta. Alizarin crimson, again, would be good substitute for that. I've got a line that's starting to form here. I need to soften that. I let that dry a little bit too much. Let me grab a little opera. A little opera there as well. Just add some vibrancy to this whole thing. In a few spots. And right now it looks like a bunch of pink blotches, but once I add water and really let this run, it'll start to really work. Let's see. Let's go in. Maybe down in here, I'm going to move into some of this Hooker's green. And I don't know if you remember the first class, but this is essentially that wash that we did, that multicolored wash. Mostly cool colors now. Let's see, I don't like that shape that I got there, so I'm just going to thicken that up and change that shape back a little bit. There we go. Oh, let's see, I'm going to move back into some of this blue over here, which again looks really dark, but there's a fair amount of water in it, and if I clean my brush out, I can maybe I'm going to use a little peacock blue. I'm just going to grab a little of that. Boy, that was a lot of that. And just change that up a little bit. Just a different cool, oops, can't see what I'm doing. Just a different cool color for this wash. Clean that shape up. Put some of that over in there. Now, as I get over here, let's kind of soften that, see if we can make sure that that blotch doesn't stay there. As I get over here, I know that I'm going to have a little bit of a light area here. So I want to come in with some of this permanent yellow deep again, right in here, like so. Not a lot, just a hint. And actually that has a little lemon yellow in it, which is okay. And then I'm going to move into a little permanent magenta down in here where it starts to kind of make that curve around. And then we'll bleed this into that. Got to move a little faster. I'm talking too much, and I'm ending up with some lines that I don't care for in my, or some hard edges. That I can pick up where that green was, so I'm not going to worry about that little screw up right there that much. Let's go back to this peacock blue. I grabbed the Hooker's green, but with a little Hooker's green in my brush, I picked up some of that peacock blue, and now I got this really pretty, without really working hard, I've got that really pretty kind of aqua marine. I don't even know what that is, what color that would be, but it's kind of an aqua green, aqua blue maybe, I don't know. Soften some of that. Let's pull this peacock blue over in here as well. At some point, we may not care for this, so we can come back in and add a little more orange to it after it's dry. Let me pull in a little permanent magenta again in this area. Work my way around these little vigas sticking out here. I need to be careful that I don't stop the color on one side and not pick it back up on the other. It'll look weird if I don't have that down here as well. But once I get some down there, I can come in with maybe some of this too. And really just get that little peacock blue. I like that peacock blue hooker's green thing that was going on there. I don't even know how I did that, but I'm not sure I can replicate that. But we'll just pull that in. See this blotch that happened there? I'm not super crazy about that, but we can deal with that. I'm gonna stick with the peacock blue coming in here. Maybe just a bit of royal blue down in here. And right now this seems like it's fairly dark, but it's not. We're gonna really, you know, we're gonna push these dark shadows quite a bit. So the fact that this is a little sloppy, a little bit, oh, there we go. That's how I did it. Just a little bit of one color in the brush and picked up a little of the other. I'm going to come back up here and see if I can't add just a little bit of that and maybe fix. It's still a little wet, but I don't mind the texture that's forming there. So I'm not going to worry too much about the fact that I just did that. I'm just going to add more paint around that. That works. I want to be careful not to get too much going on over here because this hooker's green could start to push that that into kind of an ugly mud over here. So I have to be a little careful with what I'm doing, but not too bad. So there we go. So that's kind of our first two washes. And again, these are just quick, easy. I am going to come in with some more peacock blue right there because that's just weird looking. There we go. And maybe some quinacridone violet. This is weird. Don't care for this, so I'm going to add some quinacridone violet. I probably should have just gone with that instead of the peacock blue. I think I was just having a lot of fun painting that peacock blue. You guys know how I'm a fan of peacock blue. So we'll just kind of pull this in. And obviously I got stuff on the side of my hand, so I'm getting it on my paper, but that's going to be covered up by sky anyway, so I'm not overly worried about it. Just kind of cleaning up that edge. And then this guy here. So you can see this is kind of a crazy wash that I've created. Let me put this back up in there. Let's see. I'm going to bring a little opera just right in here to help that out. What's interesting about opera is even though it's a lighter color, it'll push some of these darker colors out of the way. That's a really cool thing about watercolors is you can put down some dark color and then when you drop some light color while it's still wet into it, it'll displace that dark color and you'll end up with this really cool mix of color that you certainly couldn't have done by, actually mixing color. You're just dropping pure, lighter, whatever that is, whether it's opera or orange or whatever, into a dark wash. It's going to displace that. It's going to stay pure, whatever that color is that you drop in, and then move that dark color away from it. It's kind of cool. Let's see. Kind of clean up that edge just a bit. And so there's a lot of texture in this. It seems like it's really dark, but it's not. But yeah, that's pretty good. And what, I'm looking at the time, and we've got about 20 minutes left in class. So how about I'm just going to let this dry naturally. I'm going to pick some of that excess water up with a Kleenex, just a hint of it, not too much. Why don't we've got 2 good washes down. Why don't we take a look at anybody who wants me to look at their painting, the one that we finished, or I can look at this one, but we're so early in on this one that I wouldn't worry about it too much. Let's see. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Let me just got this little weirdness going on right there. I may not be able to fix it on me. Okay, so I am going to remove the spotlight and go to gallery view. Let's see. Kathy, you're holding yours up, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let me make the spotlight here really quick. Oh, hey, look at that. Yeah, hold it. Well, you had it back just a wee bit away from the perfect right there. Just hold it right there. Don't move it. Let me get the screenshot. Apparently I was doing a larger screenshot. Oh, I was doing a demo for somebody and needed a larger screenshot. So here we go. And capture. Cool. All righty. You can set it down.
Breathe.
So let me pull this up here into Photoshop. Let me close that one. No, don't save. Let me share the screen. Kathy, that's looking really nice.
Oh, thank you.
Trying to think of anything I might do differently. You're right. Those puddles you were working on, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
they don't really, puddles, but it reads like a really nice road. So I wouldn't worry about that too much.
Okay, I won't, because I couldn't get the puddles to look like puddles.
That's okay. That just takes a little practice. That's all. Yeah, I think this is really nice. I might add just a skosh. Let me just add a little layer here so I'm not working destructively. I might add like maybe some of that color there, just kind of, I might add just a few little, every now and then. These are terrible because that's
Okay. Yeah, I tried to do it, but it just didn't hold. It kind of melded into it.
Yeah, I think it was probably just a little bit too wet. But if you kind of go in now that it's dry and add just a few, just to help kind of define this. What you can do is so I added a couple on this side.
Okay.
What you do is then come back in and kind of blur them back, soften the one side so it's sharp on one side.
Okay.
Particularly on this right side of the road.
Okay, gotcha.
It just will help define that just a little bit more.
Okay.
You don't need a lot, and you certainly don't need to do the whole road. Just a few little choice little spots
Okay.
where it, yeah, just kind of like that. See how that kind of helps define that just a wee bit better?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, just a little bit. And this, I mean, this you could even do this the opposite direction, so you get kind of the sharper edge, you know, close to the road. Boy, I'm doing a terrible job there. And then you just kind of, you know, pull it back in this direction just a bit, just to kind of help. That'll kind of help that a little bit.
Okay.
I think this is looking really nice, though. You've got good contrast in this area here. I like what you did here. This is, you know, you moved these kind of trees back behind this field here, and I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that was a cool idea.
Yeah, I showed Melanie the picture, you know, this picture, the picture we're doing. And she says, you need to work on those rows a little better.
Oh,
and
these?
I said, Melanie, you're criticizing my watermelon. Stop it.
It does look a little bit like a watermelon.
Yeah, I says, that's my watermelon up there. Leave it alone.
You know, you could just soften, you know, come in with a little water and just soften those edges just a skosh. That might help a little bit.
Yeah.
But overall, I don't think it looks too bad. I think it's pretty nice. So, you know, it looks like mown, you know, like mown. Is that a word? Mown?
Mowed.
Mowed. You know, like a mowed field. Like a field that's been mowed. I don't know. English is failing me right now.
Okay, and so my clouds look okay?
Yeah, I like your sky. It's really quite lovely. So, yeah, those are good.
Well, I've been trying to practice clouds, and it's been a challenge.
Yeah, I think that practice is paying off because these look really nice.
Good, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna keep practicing because it's not there yet.
They're pretty good though. I think I would be proud of those if I were you.
Okay, I will be then. If you say so, you're the teacher.
Good job. Anybody else? What did I just open? Let's see. Tommy's got his up, so let me replace this. There we go. All righty, let me grab the little doodad here and grab that. There we go. Got it. All right. Well, let's see. Did it show up yet? Oh, there it is. Come on. No. Dang it. Push too many. I hovered over something too long and it thought I was trying to do something else. All right. Oh, I need to share this. Share screen. There we go. I think this is looking really good, Tommy. I like the way you've, you know, used the darks against the light of this building. This is nice, kind of abstract, but it looks, you know, looks like a side of a house, but it's not overly detailed. I'm thinking that I might, if I were you, soften. I don't know if I can do it or not. Let's see. Let me just. I'm just going to quickly paint something here that I can then soften. So don't pay attention to what I'm doing right now. This is just so there's something on this layer. So I might, if I were you, soften this whole bit just a bit, let's see, there we go. Kind of see how that, just, it's a little bit sharp.
Yeah.
Right here. I might pull it out a little more this way here, and then just soften the whole thing so there's not a sharp line. That I think if you just, yeah, I mean, there's not really enough paint on my, you know, not enough color. I didn't really put enough color down in there to really soften it, but you see how I've kind of softened that just a bit. That was just a little bit distracting. It was kind of making an arrow of this light here going, boop, pointing it away from the direction you want the road to go. So I think if you just soften that a bit and maybe just soften this area here a bit.
Okay.
This is good. Don't touch this, but as you get a little closer to the edge of your paper here, soften that. These are nice. I really like what you've done with these trees, and the mountain back here looks good. I might put a little bit of a shadow coming off of your kind of garage or barn or whatever here. It's cool because it looks like, you know, your road is like actually a little higher up. So this is a little further down on the hill. So maybe accentuate that by bringing in, you know, a bit of a,
Yeah. Okay.
a shadow coming off, you know, of that building right in there. I didn't do a very good job of drawing one in there, but you kind of get the idea. That'll kind of, and then what I might do is take a real light wash. Let's see if I can do that. And just kind of hit, you know, just hit a little bit, just knock that part of the road back just a bit more. Because once you get kind of past here, it starts to lead you back off of your painting. So I think if you just put like a thin wash of a darker color, you know, something like what you've got over here, it could be this greeny kind of green blue that you've got there, or the purple like I was using, or even some of this, just kind of real thin, you know, mostly water, just knock that back just a bit, so you're not, you know, totally wanting to leave the painting. I think once you kind of get here, this will kind of bring you back around into this area. So your road will come back up into here, and then you'll hit this and come back over into here. Otherwise, I think that's looking really nice. Very good.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, not a whole lot. I wouldn't do a whole lot there. Let's see. Let me go back to anybody else want me to look at theirs? I hear crickets.
To a very unnecessary.
Mine turned to mud, so I'm not going to show my.
Okay. That's okay.
And it's the second time we do it.
It just takes practice. Sometimes, you know, I've had paintings do that on me too. I mean, it just doesn't. Some days it just doesn't click, and I had paintings that turned to mud, and I think, okay, well, that was a learning experience. I'm not going to do that again. If nobody else wants me to kind of look at theirs, I guess we can call it for the evening. We'll, you know, leave a couple minutes early, unless you want me to look at that one, Tommy? Is that what you're holding up there?
No, it's just turning the other one over. I've got them on both sides.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess with that, I did hit record this time. So I will not have to repaint this on Thursday, so we have the recording. But I should get this uploaded by Thursday. Hopefully it doesn't take quite as long as the last time. That was something of a fiasco. I'm not sure what happened there. If I have the opportunity, I'll try and upload it sooner than later. Thursdays just kind of work out for me because I'm back in town and I know I'm going to be here and I have decent Wi-Fi.
Sounds good to me.
But I'll let you guys know when it's uploaded, and I'll send you guys the link. And you guys are welcome to. And as always, you know, I'll keep the other links in there for previous classes, so you can, you know, if you want, you can go back and watch the others. And I guess with that, everybody, I hope you have a great rest of the week. And I look forward to seeing you guys again on Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. Good night.
Bye.
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 Bye.